What is hope? Are you a hopeful person? How would you define hope? What are some general examples of hope in your everyday life? Are you hoping for an education? Are you hoping to get married? Perhaps start a family? Are you hoping in your investments? What happens in life when things do not go as planned? How do you cope with disappointments? Let's read from Luke chapter 24, verses 12 to 32. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Stooping and looking in, he saw the linen cloth by themselves. Then he went home amazed at what had happened. Now on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He answered them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astound us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. I believe those two men who were without hope, once they met the Messiah, the risen Messiah, found new hope, new vitality, new strength, and a new purpose. Biblical hope is essential. It is eternal. It is found in Jesus, and it points to the future. The biblical word for hope in Hebrew is tikva. In Hebrew, the word means expectation, but it also means a cord or a rope, which comes from the root word that means to bind, to wait for, or to wait upon. Hope then is a rope that we can hang on to when the world seems out of control or when we just do not know how to make sense of it all. Are you going through a difficult season in your life? Hope is that rope. If you endured a difficult trial, what would you tell someone else who is now just entering? Psalm 71 verses 5 to 6 says, "For you have been my hope, sovereign Lord, my confidence since my youth. From birth I have relied on you. You brought me forth from my mother's womb." Jeremiah 29:11. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Romans 12:12. "Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer." Are you a hopeful person? Psalm 62. "For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken." How long will all of you attack a man to batter him? Like a leaning wall, a tottering fence. They only plan to thrust him down from his high position. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my salvation and my glory. My mighty rock, my refuge is God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balance, they go up. They are together lighter than a breath. Put no trust in extortion. Set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart on them. Once God has spoken. Twice have I heard this, that power belongs to God, and that to you, O Lord, belongs steadfast love, for you will render to a man according to his work. What good things or experience and people would you want to thank God for right now in your life? God sends so many different people in our lives throughout our days. Some bring disappointment, but some brings hope. What good things, experience, and people do you want to thank God for right now? When you are not happy with your circumstance, how do you react when God says no to your circumstance? When he says no to your prayer requests? We can think of many people in scriptures who hoped and prayed for good, but instead received evil. Even so, they remained strong in their faith to God. We think of Job, Joseph, David, Paul, and Lazarus. These men prayed. Their situation became worse before it got better. These men have learned to play the hand that they have been dealt, for they understood that these words had mighty power. My grace is enough. Job chapter 8 verse 13. Such are the path of all who forget God. The hope of the godless shall perish. Job 30:26. But when I hoped for good, evil came, and when I waited for light, darkness came. 2 Corinthians 12:7-10. So to keep me from becoming conceited, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan, to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. These men learned to play the hand that was dealt to them, and rest in the promise that God's grace is enough. Do you trust God to use your past for the good of His kingdom? Romans 8:28. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Where is God leading you now in your life? Remember, hope is a rope. If you ever picture someone drowning, the one thing that makes the difference between where he presently is and where he wants to be is a rope or a ladder or some instrument between the man and the safe side of the river. Hope is that rope that God our Father has extended to us in the middle of our circumstances to keep us looking forward into the future, that there is a better place, a better side of where we are now. We start with faith, we end with love, but between faith and love, hope is the rope that keeps us going. So what have you learned today from this devotional? When you feel overwhelmed by your circumstances, can you use any of the scriptures you have learned today to help you deal better with that situation? Remember, hope looks to the future. Encourage yourself in scriptures and persevere in prayer. Psalm 33:22. Let your steadfast love, O Lord, be upon us, even as we hope in you. Thank you for joining our devotional.